Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for coming back for yet another video. It has been a while and we are back. It feels so good to be in this seat. Two quick things to disclaim. Number one, if you are here to learn how to use a leak down tester, please exit the video now, otherwise you will be sorely disappointed because there are some other aspects of this video, kind of like the vlog style. The full disclaimer, don't say I didn't warn you. Number two, I do leave the video open-ended. There will be a part two, there will be a follow-up, but just to give you the heads up, it is open-ended. Very brief backstory, sold a riding mower to an older gentleman who actually drove it from Ohio a few weeks ago, and he dropped this machine off. He said it was burning oil. When he dropped it off with me, it was non-running. From what he told me, he just tried starting it, cranking it, cranking it, cranking it, and from what it sounds like, he just flooded the crap out of it. So when I got it, took the spark plug out, cranked it over for about 10 or 15 seconds, blew the spark plug off, put it back in, and it fired right up. It did smoke a little bit. I will show you that. I'm going to turn it over to my past self with the kind of the walk around and so on and so forth. So hope you enjoy.
All right, so here it is. It's a Bolens by MTD, 38 inch. It's actually in decent shape. Tires have some decent tread on them. The seat is just immaculate. I mean, it has normal wear and tear, but otherwise it's a really, really awesome machine, cosmetically speaking at least. What happened is it started to burn oil. I don't really know the sequence of events, but it just started burning oil. And then at one point he tried starting it. He just kept turning it over and cranking it and it wouldn't start. What it sounded like, he just flooded the crap out of it. And then he drove up my way not too long after that. So he did bring it without a battery. The only thing I did do is I put an old battery that I had in it, fires right up. So I mean, it turns over. We'll start to tear into the engine a little bit. I smelled the gas already, it smells fine. The air filter is just brand new. It's a 15.5 horse Briggs IC engine. February 2009. It's a little over 10 years old. You can notice a little bit of oil blowing out. Let me try to get a light. It's just like a little bit of oil coming out from that valve cover. So this will be kind of like a two-part video. The first part is explaining, the diagnostic tools that they have via a compression tester and a leak down tester. And then the second part will be making the fix, or, kind of narrowing in on where to go. So this is a compression tester, and this just measures how much PSI that piston is pushing up to the top of the cylinder, where this screws in the spark plug hole, and it will give you a reading. Normally it's between 75-ish all the way up to 150. Every engine's a little bit different. This is what's called a leak down tester. And what a leak down tester will do, this gauge, you hook up compressed air to it, force air through these channels, and then this coupling piece attaches onto there, and then that goes into the spark plug hole. So what you're doing at that point is you are forcing air into the cylinder. That air will then make its way, to wherever it needs to, kind of like water. It'll just go to the point of least resistance. From there, you can determine if there is more of a problem. There will be air leaking by. I think it's about 10%, 5 to 10%, somewhere in there is normal, right? Because it's not perfectly sealed. So once you get above that air, if it's making its way past in a larger capacity, will start to be problematic. The compression tester is good. It obviously serves its purpose. It's not a tell-all. Normal PSI in an engine, it should be, again, anywhere between 75 and 150. 150 is probably a little high. I know cars are a little bit higher, but around 100 plus or minus a few is fine. By the way, too, this engine is cold. There's a difference between cold and hot PSI, but this is cold engine. And we're at about 90, which is good. Both instances, it is helpful to have the reading done with an engine that's fully warmed up. Now, sometimes, especially, somebody like me, and when I'm working on a lot of stuff that I get in, it won't run. So if I want to test this right out of the gate, I can't really do that until we get it running, which might not be the best thing. So anyways, just keep that in mind, that the cold PSI and the hot PSI from the compression test, important to understand the balance. the leak down test is designed to be done with a warm engine. Find the compression stroke. A wooden dowel is helpful to have. You can use a screwdriver, but just be very careful. I'm not gonna say that I've never used a screwdriver, but you can't really mess this up, the wood and the aluminum in there. So anyways, wooden dowel. It's easy to tell the top dead center if you have the valve cover off. That way you can see, the valves opening and closing. We'll probably end up taking that off, I should. But just in case you aren't going to do that, you can put your finger over the spark plug hole and then just rotate the engine around. And when you feel pressure starting to exert itself up, then you know you're on the compression stroke. So I know that's right on a compression stroke. So we're probably near the top. So I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit. Okay, so you see how that wants to go in when I turn it, so that's going down. So that right there is top dead center. We will put of course my neighbor is mowing his lawn, because you need your ears for this, because you need to hear where some of the air is forcing its way out and coming from. We should still be able to hear it. Okay, turning it all the way counterclockwise until it stops. Okay, there is nothing getting through there. This is completely blocked off. So when I hook the air up to it, there's nothing getting by. So as soon as I start to turn that counterclockwise, what that is going to do is that compressed air is going to force its way into the cylinder. In a lawnmower, there's generally 3 places where it comes out. Either it's going to come out somewhere the crankcase breather, or sometimes I've even seen it push oil all the way up to the top of the oil neck. That's going to indicate some kind of a cylinder or a piston ring issue, because it's getting by those piston rings. Or the other 2 is you're going to hear it coming out of your exhaust manifold, or your exhaust, where the exhaust comes out. That's going to mean something's up with the exhaust valve. Or you're going to hear it coming through your, where your air filter is, which is the intake valve. Automotive, there's another one. If you hear your radiator bubbling, that could mean some kind of like a head gasket or a cracked cylinder block or something like that. But we don't have to worry about that because there is no radiator in here, which is good. You want to have it somewhere around, and this gauge only goes up to 100 PSI. So between 90 and 100 PSI. Hopefully I'll be able to hear it with that lawnmower in the background, but here we go. So I'm just going to force it. This is how much air I'm forcing into it, and this is how much pressure it's holding. So I know if I force 100 PSI in and it's at 90 PSI over here, that means it's only losing 10%, which is normal. If it's at 50 and I'm forcing 100 PSI in, that means we're losing about half of our pressure somewhere. Or if it's at 30 or 20 or 10, we're losing most of our pressure or whatever. So I'm gonna stop rambling. Gosh, that lawnmower is killing me. So watch that gauge, it's gonna start to go up, and I'm gonna stop at around, 90 or 100 is what the kit tells me to do. So I'm going to point one other thing out too. So what just happened is I forced air in there too quickly, and it actually pushed that cylinder down, which is not good. So do it slowly, otherwise you'll have to reset it, and that's what I just did. So there we go. So that's at almost 100. We're at 40, so we're losing about 60%, and got that engine cover off. There's the breather. It's going to be coming up out, and it's going to whoosh, come out here, or it's going to come out of the intake manifold, which this connects to that down there, which is connected to this, and it all kind of feeds in. We're going to know in just about a second. So I'm going to force that air in, and then I'll pop you off, and we'll go look. We'll have some audio up there too. Okay, we're gonna go just with that. So here's what's cool. I can hold pressure on that. Obviously that's gonna seal it. So see how that comes up? Sorry, it's not in focus. I'm gonna let off of it right now. And it comes down. Coming out the breather. So what does that mean? That means we either have scoring on the piston cylinder or we have worn rings. There's a handy little thing. I think those are the only two. Right there. Air escaping from the crankcase breather, defective rings, or worn cylinder walls. I'm gonna go on a limb and say the cylinder walls are probably fine. The piston rings are a little bit more likely to, to wear down before there's scoring to an engine. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen. From all this oil blowing out around here, that is obviously from the oil getting past the piston rings, and who knows, there could have just been one of the owners just could have ran it on low oil for a while and just kind of overheated things. Again, I don't think it's enough to really do like a crazy amount of damage to the cylinder, especially if there's oil in it. Like, the piston rings can burn up or whatever, but I mean, you really got to do some numbers on something to damage the cylinder. Again, not saying that's not possible or it's not in play here. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. All right, I think we're gonna do a part 2 just to see it through. I don't know why, but my heart is leaning towards part 2. Just giving this one a second shot at life. It's in great cosmetic shape. Other than that, there's really nothing wrong with it. I mean, really isn't. I mean, it's clean and it's nice. But it's got 90 PSI though. That's what I'm really freaking upset about right now, is it's got 90 PSI. It's got 90. Obviously it still runs and it runs okay, but man, that is really mystifying me. So now what I want to do, I want to put the spark plug back in. I'm going to fire it up and I'll kind of give you an idea of what kind of smoke is bellowing out it, what it looks like.
Hopefully you got some value out of it. I know this video is kind of weird. Usually I get stuff that's not running, and this came to me running, which is strange, but I did get a confirmation email earlier this morning that the piston rings will be here next week. It's Saturday, Wednesday next week, so 4-ish days from now. I'm gonna try to leave as a little of a gap in between the time I post this video until the next, I'm not gonna drag it out like weeks or months or years. Believe it or not, this is the first time I have ever used the leak down test. I have known about them. I have had that tool for I think close to a year now, and I never used it. If it was a first time exposure for you, I am glad we did it together. Hopefully you learned something. If you liked the video, hit that thumbs up button. You can follow me on social media at chrisxoutdoors, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you have. Keep a lookout for part 2. If it is done, I will link it in the description on the end cap video or whatever. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you in the next one.